Hey, Nana here. Thanks for joining me for this R2D2 series by Lucy Collins. I hope that you've had fun and learned something new. Remember, finished is better than perfect. So come with me as we complete the final piece of R2D2. Now it's time to decorate R2D2's body. So using our picture as a guide, I'm going to go ahead and start with my blue yarn and sew those 3 horizontal stripes across the front of R2D2. You notice that I'm not cutting the yarn off of my roll of yarn or off of my ball of yarn. I'm simply going to thread my needle and start pulling yarn through. That way I know that I'll have enough. And if you didn't already do it, now is a good time to cut your white yarn because we're not going to be using that again for a minute. You can cut it and get it out of your way, and then we'll just join it when we're ready to start again. Remember, R2D2 is your creation, so I am not counting my stitches or using the pattern at this point. I'm simply looking at my picture and deciding where I want R2D2's lines to be. I'm happy with those, so I'm going to go ahead and take my yarn inside and come down and pull that piece off, and I'm going to switch to gray yarn and make those vertical stripes below my blue lines. She suggests 4 or 5, so again, it's your creation. Go ahead and do what you think is going to look good. And sometimes you can't come right in between stitches, or you can't come in and out the same stitch, whatever. And sometimes you might need to go in one stitch and out another. Another time you might need to go in and out the same stitch. So again, whatever looks good to you. I'm going to stop with 4 lines. I'm going to bring my yarn across to finish that off and bring it through to the inside. Now that I have my stripes in place, I simply need to pick up my blue yarn again and frame those vertical stripes. Again, your picture is a better guide, in my opinion, than the actual instructions. I'm making back stitches along here. You can work that any way that you like. You can do one long stitch if you like. That would go a little faster. And I'm not sure I'm going to love the back stitching, but I think it'll look okay. If not, I can pull it out and do it differently. The nice thing about yarn is it's very pliable. And you can see down here I didn't come right next to that stitch, so I'm just going to tuck my yarn through to the inside, come up by that stitch, and then do one more stitch over to close my rectangle. And then according to the pattern, I want one stitch to go across the center, and the decoration will be done. Now I can go ahead and cut my blue yarn and cut my gray yarn, tuck those ends up inside. And I need one more square around R2D2's eye. So again, coming from the inside, you can go ahead and cut my last piece of blue yarn, and then I'll simply tuck these pieces to the inside. I will go ahead and continue crocheting R2D2 with white yarn to finish up that base, so I don't want to lose that stitch. Before we complete the bottom half of R2D2, we still need to put these arms in. So what you're going to do is take the fasteners for the eyes that you put into his arms, and again, looking at the picture, you're just going to put R2D2's arms on the center side of his body. So you just want to take the stem of the eye, make sure that the stripe is on the outside, and push that through. Coming to the inside, you'll snap the back of the eye on, and that will hold the arm in place. Once you've done one arm, then just take the other arm and go exactly opposite. It's a very clever way to secure the arms. You want to make sure that they are exactly where you want, because you won't be able to take them off. Once the arms are in place, we're going to grab stuffing and stuff R2D2 firmly. Make sure you push your stuffing all the way into the top of his head. And then we're going to continue on with round 19. And I did cut my white yarn, which you wouldn't have to, but if you chose to, we'll simply take another section of white yarn and connect it like we always do, just the same as if you were switching colors. And then when we're done, we'll just take those end pieces and weave them back through R2D2's body. At this point, we're going to start closing up the base of R2D2. So we're going to single crochet, and it says in the back loop only, but we did flip our pattern, so I'm going to crochet in the front loop only. So I've connected my yarn. Now I'm going to single crochet 2 stitches together. And then single crochet in the next and repeat that all the way around. Once you've gotten back around to your starting stitch, you're ready to go on to the next round. You can see that we're just nicely closing up the base of R2D2. And this is why it's nice to put a stitch marker in, so that all I have to do is follow the pattern until I get around to the stitch marker. When I made the first R2D2, this is where I lost count and did not come out with the proper amount of stitches. So it was easier to put a stitch marker in the back and stop worrying about the right number of stitches. Once we've brought the base of R2D2 in the correct number of rounds, now we're going to start increasing so that we can build that wider base for the actual bottom of R2D2. You can see how nice it was to just know that I could stop at the stitch marker. So I stopped counting how many stitches the pattern said I should have, and I just kept following the pattern, but always stopping and following the next row when I hit my stitch marker. Moving on to row 24 or round 24. And then again, front loop only. Almost done. Now we're just going to do our final close by crocheting 2 together all the way around. Now, as you get back around, honestly, you can really finish off at this point anywhere you like. You don't have to go all the way back around to the marker. What you do want to make sure of is that you have a bit of an opening so that you'll be able to put the last of your stuffing in. So I'm not around to my marker yet, but I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to cut a nice long tail because that's what I'm going to use to stitch everything together with. I'm going to go ahead and cut these a bit shorter. And then take some more stuffing. Go ahead and pull your thread through to do that fasten off stitch. Pull that tight. And as you can see, I have just a little opening. I'm going to take my purple thing because it's nice and small, and I'm going to put some stuffing down in here to finish up R2D2. This will be the hardest part right here, is getting that stuffing in that little space. So again, you can use a pencil here, anything that you have on hand, that you can just slowly work that stuffing into R2D2's body to finish up. I think that's plenty of stuffing for my little guy. Now I'm going to take my length of yarn. I probably cut a little more than I needed, so I'm going to take that down a little bit. Go ahead and thread my needle. And close this opening up. Because I want to make sure that the bottom is rather flat, I am going to take a few stitches in just a little bit deeper to anchor this bottom piece and kind of pull it flat using this last piece of yarn that I have. Then when I'm happy with it, I am going to go ahead and do a tie off like I would if I were sewing. Just going to stitch through and come back and make a little knot in a very inconspicuous place. And then weave my tail back into the body, pull it tight, and cut it off. I still have these other 2 pieces that I'm going to weave through as well. Remember, if you kind of snug it tight, when you let go, the end will go right back in the body and you won't see it. Thanks for staying to the end of the video. I will see you next time on Crafting with Nana. Happy crafting!